Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. This is a Newsweek article talking about President Donald Trump given immunity by McCarthy and Matt Gaetz and Republicans in Congress to testify, essentially serving as a person blowing the whistle on corruption within the special counsel, within the Department of Justice. He'd be given immunity to testify against Jack Smith and against Democrats leading the charge against him. January, that day, was a fateful, terrible day. Nobody wanted January of 2020, okay, or 2021. That day was absolutely terrible. The problem was there might have been government employees or people associated with, for example, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, operatives of the Democratic Party, people who helped foment or encourage the chaos that we saw. Now, I'm not going to go into high-profile individuals that have been accused of that, but President Trump probably knows, just like the Honorable Christopher Wray, who wouldn't deny Federal Bureau of Investigation involvement, President Trump probably knows that there were people associated in some form, some way or another with intelligence agencies or the Department of Justice or the Democratic Party. Okay? It wasn't just this organic, chaotic event led by Trump and his inability to accept defeat. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. New format. It's been a week. I'll explain why in a little bit. But thank God, only good things. And hit subscribe to this channel. Let me know if you like the new format. For the time being, I have to use this new kind of setup. But I'm looking probably going back to the older setup in a couple of months or so. It's been a week. A lot of great things are taking place, and I'll get to that a little later. But hit subscribe to this channel right now to read my writing on The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, and other publications. Go to hagoodman.com. Ladies and gentlemen, to my members, thank you so very much for being a member on this channel. The super thanks, and to my new Patreons, thank you so much. We will grow this channel to 300,000 and more a little later in the year of 2023. I'll have a lot of interviews. 2024 is going to be absolutely a phenomenal year, an historic year in American politics, and I hope that you remain with me and you hit subscribe right now because we're going to have interviews. It is going to be even more interesting, let's just say, than 2016 and 2020. But anyway, Matt Gaetz continued, but if you have a supermajority vote of a committee like Speaker Kevin McCarthy could set up, that can bring Trump in and immunize him. And then we would proceed with the very legitimate investigative work that we're doing of the Bidens and the corrupt DOJ. Unfortunately, okay, so what you can do, what you can do is give Trump immunity and allow him to testify against those going after him. So they don't have a case. He didn't incite, nor did he defraud, nor did he compel, nor did he organize any destruction or chaos. The 4 people who lost their lives or whose lives were taken were supporters of President Trump. Okay? So there were people who lost their lives and they were supporters of Trump. So it's interesting. An unarmed woman, her life was taken. Okay, she was unarmed. Okay, her life was taken by a law enforcement official. Not one critique from the morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats among us. Not one critique. So the interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's really interesting that they don't care that an unarmed woman, her life was taken. They don't care if there was any government involvement or potentially any government involvement at all. So if Democrats look at that day They say, well, it's 100% Trump's fault. He defrauded the United States of America. His words caused all of this. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that his words caused all of this. Okay? So it's not just, it wouldn't just be for the indictments regarding January. It could be, you know what? Yeah, it would have to, the classified data issue. So Jack Smith, Trump could be immunized, and as a former president, because this is unprecedented, and all of this will be overturned by the Supreme Court if there are convictions in New York or in D.C. with the special counsel for January and for classified data, because none of this is above board. You have Democrats, Hunter, Joe, Clinton, doing infinitely worse, and they just focus on Trump, and they spend 2 years trying to find a crime. That's the issue. The 2 years trying to find a crime. Here, quote, you can actually bring President Trump to give testimony to the Congress, and in doing so, immunize him. Now, there are different forms of immunity that take place at the committee level, subcommittee level, and in some instances for full immunity. You have to have more of a supermajority vote. You can get that supermajority vote. Kevin McCarthy could get that supermajority vote. And so President Trump, if he's given some type of immunity to testify, should do this. He should do this. And this would be absolutely wonderful, because this is not really, with Hunter, there's bribery, graft, there's pay-to-play schemes, there are clear violations within the bribery statutes. You can see the money flow with Hunter and Joe. There's a money flow. There are accounts throughout the world. There's business deals throughout the world. They don't have any expertise. They don't sell hotels, a membership to golf courses, The Apprentice, real estate. They don't have any of that stuff. Okay? So they don't have any of that stuff. What they sell is access to the U.S. government. Okay? Devin Archer, when he testified, stated they sold the illusion of access. Well, the illusion of access is access, because you're not going to get investigated by intelligence agencies or by the Bureau if you're doing business with Hunter, because Hunter is part of a political dynasty or whatever. He is the president's son. So if you do business with Hunter, you're not going to be investigated until now. Until there's a Department of Justice under Trump, then Trump goes after his political opponents who set him up and framed him. So what they do is they go after the direct political rivals, which is what they accuse Trump of doing, and they go after a former president for things that weren't a crime. The hush money payment was not a crime. It wasn't even hush money. He was being extorted. You can't go to somebody if let's say there's an actress goes to a politician and says, if you don't pay me, I'm going to go, or anyone. Let's say anybody goes to you and says, if you don't pay, I'll talk about our romantic relationship, okay, and ruin your life. That's called extortion, okay? That's what Stormy did to Trump. So that's the crime there was against him. Then you have, and by the way, the FEC fined Clinton and the DNC, not Trump, for purchasing a Steele dossier. Then you had New York spend 2 years trying to find a crime. The district attorney, the predecessor of the current district attorney, didn't even want to file the crime. Then you have classified data as a former president with the power to declassify. So Trump had the power to declassify. Okay, they have to prove he didn't declassify. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation and others knew exactly where everything was because they gave him a thank you note. And then you have this is the least of his worries, the January issue, the indictments from January. If he testifies and explains exactly what took place, how people didn't listen to him when it involved 10,000 or a certain number of National Guard, if he corrects the record and testifies before Congress, it'll be impossible to indict him on non-crimes. There's literally nothing he did that was a crime. On the other hand, Hunter, Joe, you have Clinton, who I think will eventually be 24 nominee for the Democratic Party. You have these people actually committing crimes. Their best defense is a good offense going after Trump. Of course, they're trying to interfere in 24, but Trump just keeps getting his poll numbers go up and up because everybody knows what's going on. Hit subscribe to this channel. Trump should do exactly what Matt Gaetz says. Give me your thoughts. Thank you.